Welcome back to the Scotti-BYTE channel, and this is Scott. So today we want to talk about converting our existing LXD servers over to Incus servers. And Incus is the new open source fork of the LXD containerization tool, as explained in my video entitled Incus the New LXD. And the LXD to Incus tool is part of Incus and can be used to convert an existing LXD installation to an Incus server. So this tool currently works with LXD 5.0, 5.18, 5.19, and 5.20, which is the current version. And there's no promises that it's going to work after this point because I expect that LXD and Incus will begin to diverge. So following the migration, users that were in the LXD group, which provided them admin access to LXD without privilege, are going to need to be migrated or placed into the Incus-admin Linux group. So with that in mind, let's go take a look and see how we can convert a LXD server to an Incus server. To begin with, let's do a brief review of the configuration of my servers. To begin with, I have VMS Mist and VMS Rain, which are two Minisforum UM350s that I featured on my video entitled Cheap Self-Hosting Server. Then I have VMS Cloud and VMS Fog, which are QNAP machines, and they are running LXD because that's what QNAP provides. And finally, I have my desktop, which is another LXD server. So all five of these servers here are LXD servers, and all five of them are managed remotely through port 8443. Now the product we're looking at here is LXDware LXD Dashboard that I've featured on the channel many times before, but this only manages LXD servers and not Incus servers. So there's a newer product that Penning Labs has, and this one is called Lex Console, and I have a video that covers its installation and configuration. And you can see here that I have VMS Mist, VMS Rain, VMS Cloud, and VMS Fog here. And right now I don't have Mondo configured through it, but certainly I could add it. But rather than add it, I'm going to go ahead and add it as a Incus server once we convert it to this side. So this product can manage both Incus servers and LXD servers. The LXD server that I'm going to convert for this demonstration is Mondo, which is my desktop machine. So I'm going to start by doing a LXC list, and we have several machines here. Basically, the first one is a Cloudflare container, and it's running on an address on my main LAN. The next one that I actually have running is Desktop, which is a LXD virtual machine, and it also has an address on my main LAN. And then I have a Pi-hole instance, and it has an address on my main LAN. And I also have a number of other virtual machines, but currently all of these are stopped. The next thing we want to look at is we want to do a LXC profile list to see which profiles I have. And you can see that from all of my demonstrations and testing, I have quite a few profiles here. So we want to make sure that all those profiles also move during the conversion. And finally, we have LXC storage list, which will list our storage pools. And on this particular machine, I only have the default storage pool, which is a ZFS storage pool. The last thing that we want to do before we begin our conversion of our LXD server is we want to do a LXC -- version. And this particular version of LXD is version 5.20, and it is one of the valid versions that we can use to convert from LXD to Incus. Incus is not yet installed on this particular machine, and we know that by doing an Incus list, and it will come back and tell us that Incus is not found. We need to install Incus before we can do a conversion of our LXD server over to Incus. And if you're just installing Incus from scratch, then go ahead and watch my video entitled Incus Containers Step by Step. But if you're doing a conversion, then at this point, go ahead and do a sudo su to make yourself root and move over to the root account. That way we don't have to do sudo commands for everything that we're going to do. Next step is that we're going to create a folder called /etc/apt/keyrings, only if it does not currently exist. And in my case, it actually does. And then we want to download the keys for the Incus project over to that folder with this curl command. And then after that, we want to go ahead and make an entry for the repository for Incus. And now that we've done that, we can do an apt update. And then at this point, I can go ahead and wait for that to complete. And I'll exit out of the root account just because. And I can do a sudo apt install incus -y just so that it doesn't prompt me. And it goes ahead and installs the Incus server. Now that the Incus server is installed, I'm going to do a sudo usermod -a G incus-admin Scott, putting Scott into the Incus admin group, which is a new group that we got as a result of installing Incus. Next, I'm going to do a new grp incus-admin, or I could log off and log back in. And then I'm doing a groups command, and we can see that not only am I in the LXD group down here, but I am also now in the Incus admin group, which is required in order to do administrative commands in Incus. Now that Incus is installed, all I need to do is a sudo lxd-2-incus. And I hit return. It looks for the server, and it detects that it was installed through a snap package. It looks for the target server, and it detects systemd, connects to the source server, and at this point it should go ahead and do the conversion. However, it tells me that the following keys are incompatible with Incus, and it is the key that they're having a problem with is core.trust password. And if you've been watching my channel, you learned that we set up a core trust for the use of LXD dashboard, and we have to remove that before we can perform the migration. As suggested, we're going to go ahead and say LXC config unset and then core.trust _ password. And that is successful. So now let's try our conversion once again, and we'll do a sudo lxd-2-incus, and it looks for the server, and it says this migration is now ready to proceed. At this point, the source server and all of its instances will be stopped. Well, you notice that I had a couple of LXD containers that were started, and I had a couple of VMs, or at least one VM that was started. And so I go ahead and say, yes, go ahead and proceed, in which case it will stop those before the conversion. So it says it's stopping the source server. Starting the target server. The other thing that you want to note here is that it is starting from LXD version 5.20, and then the target Incus server is version 0.5.1. So it wants to know if I want to install or uninstall LXD when I'm done. And I'm going to go ahead and say yes, uninstall LXD when it's completed. And now the process is complete. So let's go ahead and do an Incus list. And the systems that were started are started now, and the systems that were stopped are continued to be stopped. They're still getting the same addresses on my main LAN. If I do an Incus profile list, we can see that all of the profiles have correctly moved over. And if we do an Incus storage list, we can see that we have the one ZFS storage pool that's over here as well. So the process of migration from LXD to Incus is complete. At this point, if we go into LXD dashboard and click on Mondo, it's going to come up and basically say that it doesn't have anything out there. It doesn't see any machines. It doesn't have any configuration. So we're going to go ahead and go back up to host, and we're going to delete Mondo from LXD dashboard because it's no longer functional. Then we're going to go over to Lex Console. In Lex Console, we did not have an entry for Mondo, and we're going to go ahead and add an entry for Mondo here by typing in Mondo or typing in the address for Mondo. We'll say its proxy name is Mondo, and then we'll go ahead and click on here for instructions on trusting certificates. So first of all, we're going to have to make a copy of this certificate, and then we're going to have to go down here and do a Incus config trust add certificate, and then an Incus config set core certificate as well. So now we're going to go ahead and do a nano on lexconsole.crt, and we'll go ahead and paste in that certificate that we just got. Do a Control-O and hit enter to save the file out, and a Control-X to exit the nano editor. Back here on Lex Console, we want to go ahead and copy the Incus command, which is going to be the Incus config trust add certificate lexconsole.crt. So we make a copy of that command. Back on the terminal, we go ahead and paste that command and execute it and head back to the web interface. On the web interface, we go ahead and make a copy of the command Incus config set core.https address and to port 8443. We do a copy of that, and we head back to the terminal again. And over here, we go ahead and submit that command. We can now dismiss this screen and go back and perform the submit command, and it goes ahead and adds Mondo as a new machine. If we click Mondo, you can see that it has 2 containers currently running and 6 virtual machines and 0 cluster members because we're not in a cluster. It calls out the amount of memory and so on. If we go into containers, we can see containers. If we go to virtual machines, it'll list the virtual machines. So let's head back up to the top level server menu here again, and you'll notice how this display looks. Well, back a few months ago when I made my first Lex Console video that was entitled Lex Console, the new LXD dashboard, this is how it looked. So the menu has changed a little bit since that time. Also, you'll note that back then I was going over the first version of Lex Console, which was version 0.4.0, and now it is 0.4.5, and they've done some updates and things are looking a little bit different. So I kind of chose to enter a proxy when I moved my Mondo device over, And whereas I did not enter a proxy before because I really didn't need it, but to me, that's just a reminder on which of my servers that I've converted to Incus servers and which ones are still LXD servers. The ones without the proxies I have as LXD servers, and the ones so far that I have with the proxy name is an Incus server. Now, the other reason I did that was because up here it lists these all as LXD servers, which isn't exactly accurate. And I've been talking to the author of Lex Console, Matthew Penning at Penning Labs, and he's been performing some pretty consistent and constant updates, and I look for a lot more of this product to change in the future. So anyway, that's just a personal note to myself and how I'm doing things right now. So now going back to the command line, one of the things that I mentioned that I was going to look at is the command incus config edit. And if you just enter that command by itself, it will go up into the editor and it will look at any particular specific commands that you've added to the overall Incus system. And one of the things that we did was set the core address for HTTPS at port 8443, and that's how we're able to use Lex Console, because it's using port 8443 to manage things. But we can take this a step further, because we can go here and do an Incus list, and we can say go in and do an Incus config edit and then mention the name of a particular container. Like let's say we go edit Cloudflare, and it will go up into the editor, and we can edit all sorts of things related to the configuration of the Cloudflare configuration. For example, you'll notice that one of the profiles it's using is bridge profile, and that's what allows it to have an address on the main LAN, as we've discussed before. So this is one good way. If you can't remember all of the command line commands, you can go ahead and use the incus config edit command to go in and make changes about various settings on your containers in Incus. As of right now, most of the commands in LXD and Incus are the same, and one place where that is different is the Incus admin command and also the Incus snapshot command. So I don't want to get into that right now, but we'll go ahead and cover some of these instances in the future, and expect that as Incus moves ahead and LXD also moves ahead, expect the two projects to diverge even more, and expect unique commands that you'll find in both of them. So in summary, in this tutorial, we converted a LXD server into an Incus server using the LXD to Incus tool. And we verified that the migration was complete and that the Incus server was operating properly. And we enabled remote access to the Incus server with the incus config set core.https address command. And then we examined the configuration with the incus config edit command. And LXD dashboard cannot be used as a GUI interface to manage an Incus server, as we've discussed on the channel before. And so watch my video entitled Lex Console, the new LXD dashboard, to install and configure Lex Console, which is the new GUI interface by Matthew Penning at Penning Labs, which is what I highly recommend. Anyway, that's it for today. Please subscribe and like to the channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell, and we'll see you next time.